Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the show. We have a great one for you today. We have Angela. Angela, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Janaya.
Absolutely, of course, Angela. So, joining us today, Angela, you are the owner of
Fresh Food Matters in Antigonish.
Food Matters in Antigonish. Angela, could you give us a little introduction into who you are?
Oh, God. I'm trying to figure that out still.
Oh, well, that's okay. Yeah, no pressure.
I own a restaurant in Antigonish. I've had my brick and mortar shop for the past 3 years. I opened in the pandemic, so it was either the worst decision or the best decision. And I started my little local food shop at the farmer's market. And now we're going into a new location in a matter of weeks, which is terrifying, exciting, awesome, fun, overwhelming, all of it.
Of course. Change is, interesting and exciting and scary at the same time. Angela, let's go back a little bit in your history because it's always a nice place to start. I'm wondering, where are you from originally?
I'm from Antigonish.
Okay. Born and raised.
Born and raised, but had to leave in order to appreciate what I had.
Yeah.
Too. So I moved out west for about 5 years.
Okay.
And moved home when I was pregnant with my first. And I used to design houses. I did architectural drafting for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back home and didn't know what to do with my life and had a second child and then said, I want to cook. And I started cooking.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how old were you when you started cooking, though?
I think it was like 27,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere around 27. It was kind of weird because I was having this really big battle. My son was almost 10 months old, and I wanted to go back to work, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I wasn't going to be a drafter.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also somebody who I absolutely positively didn't want to be. I was somebody who was overweight my entire life. I struggled with weight my whole life, and then after having my 2 children, I realized that I wasn't the mom that I wanted to be. So after a disastrous 27th birthday, I called my brother, who was a personal trainer, and he said, I'll give you a gym pass if you promise to use it. And I said, I promise I will. So through a lot of anger that I had pent up from being young and
Mm-hmm.
bullied and all that fun stuff, I was able to find more of who I was wanting to be as a person. And then I started at a restaurant actually just across the road from where we are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was funny. And I wanted to work at a restaurant that didn't have a deep fryer because it was really important to me to have food that was real food. And I grew up with a mom who loved us dearly and fed us all the food, all the good foods. But we were always never we always had to finish our plate and stuff like that. So anyways, grew up quite overweight. And then I started at this place and I started my weight loss journey. So I was starting to become the person that I always essentially wanted to become
Mm-hmm.
through food and through working out.
Wow, so just getting your body in a better place.
Mm-hmm.
Funny how one thing kind of leads to another, right? Now, what gave you the idea to start your own business, though?
The restaurant that I was working in, it was called the PRISY Pig. The worst name ever.
Yeah.
I said I would never work
one.
there because the name was so terrible. I'm like, I'm never working there. And it was so funny because
Never say never.
well, I was doing cooking classes at the Superstore, and they were super fun. Like it was a super fun time. It was basically I would go in 2 hours, I would cook, I wouldn't even have to clean, have a class of people, and I would show them how to make food,
Yep.
essentially, and they would learn some stuff and they would eat it, and it was super great. And I'd play funny games with them too, like I'd make a dessert that had tofu in it, but I wouldn't tell them it was tofu.
Okay,
I'd make
yeah.
them eat it first
Yeah, you have
because
to
I
tell
didn't want to
people
have that
that because they
preconceived
won't eat
notion.
it, yep.
Exactly, and they all loved it. And then I told them it was tofu, and they're like, oh, but they liked it. So I really enjoyed connecting with people through food. And so I went to a couple of different restaurants. Usually people who are in the restaurant industry tend to go to a place for a couple of years, leave, and go to another place. It's very high stress. There's lots of turnover.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually people end up leaving because of burnout, or they think it's an in-between career.
Right, okay.
And I absolutely positively don't think it's an in-between career. I think it's an amazing career. And I hope to change a lot of people's minds with thinking that it's just something that you could, as a fill-in.
The food industry.
Yeah, it's a fascinating industry. It's so fun. It's so creative, and you make people happy through food. So it's such a rewarding career. So yeah. Anyways, the restaurant that I was in, the Prissy Pig, decided to close. And the greatest part about the Prissy Pig that I found was that they were really a great place where people could come, never feel rushed to leave, and come and hang out with friends. We'd have regulars that if they didn't show up, we'd wonder why, if they were okay.
Yes, yeah.
If they were in the hospital, we would go visit them. Like real connections to people with their food, their breakfasts. We would know a lot of our regulars, what they would eat, and before they walk in through the door, we already knew, and then we'd be putting it on for them.
Yep.
So it really gave me this real sense of community through this restaurant. And then I decided that I was going to do the farmers market. And I did it for a little bit, and then I quit. And then I started my own doing insurance.
Okay, yeah.
Which I did for 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really good at trying on careers.
But at least you know what you like and you don't. I mean,
yeah.
Right? Better than to not try something?
I'm never fearful of, like, failure, because I think that in failure you learn a lot about who you are. Which
is, I'm sure, why you went ahead and went against all great advice and started a food business company, right?
Yes,
right?
Yes. I think that's the first thing when I listen to podcasts about food businesses. What they say is, don't start a restaurant. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Why would you say that?
When you're in the food business, yeah.
When you're in the food business.
They want to keep you away from the good stuff. They're not trying to really, keep you away from anything, that's invaluable. They just don't want you to get all the awesome experiences from the food market.
Right.
That's all.
It's true though, but I mean, I've been in a lot of food businesses where it is really hard. It's really hard to go in day after day and repeat the exact same mistakes. And I'm not that type of person. Like, if we have a bad day in our shop, it's like we figure out what happened, where we fell down, and what is it that we can do to fix it so we don't replicate that same bad day again. I'm very solution focused, and so is my team, with figuring out what we did and what happened and fixing it to make it better for the next time. We spend a lot of time working, and you should work in an environment where you feel happy, rewarded, creative, and like you're doing something that means something too. So that's why I think that cooking and being in the trade is so phenomenal. And I went to, a couple years ago, I went to NSCC in New Glasgow to just see who was coming out of the trade. And it was really sad because there was 6 people graduating. And I'm like, how can 6 people sustain an industry? It can't. So I feel like it's partly my duty to help train the next generation of people in what restaurants are and what they look like and how we service people in our community.
Because people need food.
They do.
Obviously, right?
They do. Like, humans literally require food, water, and sleeping. Those are the 3 non-negotiables of a human life.
Yep.
And so we're pretty darn important, I think, in that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah. And some people, unfortunately, they don't have the knowledge, the ability, the know-how to actually make food. So they're left with trying to either figure it out for themselves, learn it. Sometimes they want to, sometimes they don't. Or going through outside sources like restaurants.
Yes.
And when you have restaurants that are like fast food related, that are highly processed, it's a really difficult thing when you don't have any other options that are available.
And it's cheaper and it's quicker, which is the problem. Yeah, that's the unfortunate side to things that are good for you generally. They come with, a heavier price tag.
They do, yeah. But I think too is with food, why is it that it's supposed to be cheaper? Because we've been marketed to say that cheap food is what we should be putting into our body. And it's not to say that it should be more expensive, but it's just, you can put something on your face, you can have the latest iPhone, wear the designer clothes, but yet you'll cheap out on the thing that's actually fueling your body.
Yes, people, having nice vehicles and then like their home, like not much to, be a part of or like to be proud of. Yeah, why do people do those things, right?
Exactly, because I think that we've been kind of taught that food is supposed to be cheap and that it's not supposed to be that important. But when you feel like trash every morning and you have all of these
Yep.
issues, whether it's high blood pressure or whatever,
Hmm.
and you don't correlate that with what you're actually putting into your body. And it's not about diet. It's not about keto. It's not about calorie restriction or any of those things. It's literally just putting real food into your body.
And you kind of have to make that investment.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it, right? You're eating well, you're exercising, trying to get enough sleep. You know, we understand how we operate optimally, and, you know, putting good food into your body, again, is one of the best ways to do that. But again, like you're saying, why do we think food should be inexpensive? Where does that idea come from? Maybe from the idea that all the things when we're children don't tend to cost a lot and they happen the quickest, but they taste the best. You
Yeah.
know, a homemade meal when you're younger doesn't happen right away, it takes longer. Maybe that's a psychological viewpoint that we develop over time, perhaps.
It's true. I can't wait for Christmas dinner. I love it.
Yes.
So excited when I can smell everything, and I can't wait till Mom puts it on the table. And first she wants to kill us because we're in the kitchen bothering her, but you know, those are the things that are important. Like it's the thing that, I don't know, it's okay that it's not an instant gratification for something like that. But in my business too is we do fresh food very fast. We work very efficiently to have a lot of pre-prep done so that you can literally drive into a parking space, come into the shop. If you've ordered online, it's even faster.
Yep.
Grab your sandwich and get in your car and go, which is actually faster than most drive-thrus.
Yes.
And you have
Yep.
something that's homemade and from scratch. Yes, you bought it. Yes, it's fast, but it actually has real ingredients in it that are not processed by people who actually made it from scratch in your own community
Yes. Yes.
too, which is like, I think that's the thing, is that missing piece is that, like, fast food can be fresh food and it can be pumped out, but you have to really make sure that you're doing it with real ingredients.
Right. Right. Now, does that process take a long time on your end to have that ready for people, you know, so easily, to come in and be able to, you know, have access and to visibly see it and come in and out?
No, I think that if you build a system properly where you have a good team of people and each one of them know, like, you have to have a delegator. If you have everybody just doing everything and there's nobody really steering the ship and you don't know where you're going, you'll kind of just, it's everybody's doing everything and not actually having somebody that says, okay, you're working on these 3 things. When you're done that there, you're going to do this, this, and this. So it's really important to have the types of systems in place where you have your team of people, that they know what they're doing, and the end result is by the time that we're finished the end of the day, we've created a homemade hummus, a homemade soup, we've created 2 homemade meals, we've created a picnic salad, we've also served smoothies, and we've also served sandwiches in the run of one day, where we've made anywhere between 30 and 50 meals, plus waited on 50 to 75 people in a day. So when you think of that in the run of a day, that's a tremendous amount of stuff to do, and it doesn't happen all on its own. So there's so much in the background that people don't realize that actually gets that food in a container to you. Like, I just hired somebody new, and he had no idea how much thought goes into every single component that we do. He's like, wow, I really had no idea. I said, that's great. I said, it just shows that, like, you know, I'm going to show you a real, you'll appreciate things more because they're not just given to you in a container and then it's done. But a lot of people don't unfortunately realize that to get that in the container actually was about 27 steps that had to happen before it actually went into that container. We just make it look easy. That's all.
You guys are just that good.
Oh yes, we're phenomenal.
Now, Angela, does some of that come from your experience with the PRISY Pig then? Just like, you know, that attention to detail and that responsibility of what goes into the food and how you present it, and, you know, how much attention goes into each of it, bit of it.
When I started at the PRISY Pig, actually, I was there for a couple of weeks, then they asked me to manage the kitchen. So I never ever managed before in my life. But I'm always a very observant person, I think, when it comes to food and what we were doing and all of that stuff. So I agreed that I would manage the kitchen if they would let me do the changes that needed to be done. So, like, they were bringing in already boiled eggs. And I was like, why are you bringing in already boiled eggs? And they're like, well, the eggs that we were using were going bad. And my simple solution was cook less eggs.
Yes.
Right? Very simple. They would bring in prepackaged soups. Why are you bringing in prepackaged soups? So they didn't really have a plan of what it was that they were doing. So the Prissy Pig 100% helped me, but also I had massive mentorship from my very dear friend Amy from the Prissy Pig too.
Okay.
So her and I, she was more of the manager of the restaurant, and coming into it, actually never working in a restaurant before, but understood managerial skills, pricing, and those types of things. So her and I worked alongside one another with like how to do costing and what I'm putting into a recipe and how to systemize your team and duties and all of those things. So I learned a great deal from her during that time, and also a huge amount of confidence that she gave me, that she made me feel like it was figure outable, and that I could do it. And so at the time it didn't really seem like it was that big, but having that mentorship from somebody helped to propel me to go after it on my own. Was it what I originally figured, that I would start a farmer's market? No, because I wanted to go right to a restaurant. But I wasn't really ready for a restaurant in hindsight, because I think if I did a restaurant after going to the Prissy Pig closing, and then me opening my own restaurant, I think it would have failed tremendously. Because I don't think I learned the building blocks that I needed to learn first before actually opening the brick and mortar shop.
That experience is so important, right?
It is.
And that mentorship is really important. I don't think probably, would you say, enough people, well, maybe more people than not underestimate the importance of a mentor. A mentor a lot of times can be that launching point, because essentially you're learning from the master, right?
Yeah, I think that, like, I never looked at her as a mentor, but in hindsight and reflection. Yeah, because at the time when you're in it, you don't really realize, oh, she's your boss and she's telling you to do this and she's telling you to do that. But when you reflect back on the journey of where you are now to where you were, you really realize, like, that was like that pivotal point, that person believed in me and what we were doing, and how she taught me through, like, we were learning from one another. And that's the thing that gave me that gumption to say, you know what, I can do this on my own. Why not? Right? Like, we figured it out there, I can figure it out here. And one of her headlines was, her great thing was when we would be in the weeds and it would be like really overwhelming and everybody was like losing their shit. It was, listen guys, we're not saving lives here. We're just making food. So it helped to bring down that anxiety and that stress when we would get overwhelmed. Say if it was Highland Games and you were lined up for 4, 5, 6 hours straight. You're running out of food and you took on catering. Oh my God, I think I suffer from PTSD from that. But anyways, but like those are the things of like, you understood that like, okay, we're just going to do the best that we can. People might be irritated, but let's just calm down. We're all here for the same thing. We all want to eat, and we all want to eat great food, right? So let's just give yourself an extra 5 or 10 minutes. We're going to get it out to you. It's going to be good. It's worth the wait. And yeah, so that mentorship was really, really, really important.
And are those, same principles still applied to your business now when things get heavy, when there's, you're overwhelmed, when there's too many darn people waiting for their food? Do you say, you know what, it's all good. It's all going to be okay. This is just a moment.
Yeah, we do. We really learn like, whew, this is hard. But then we like, usually what happens is if we know that it's going to be bad, it's like we have a lot of communication of like, hey, the salad line is really, really busy. Okay, so you're going to be doing this, I'll say to Kat, but whenever you need a Kat, you're this person's backup, right? So everybody has a backup of somebody in there. Generally, we have a plan beforehand too. If we know that the day is going to be busy, we always have delegated stations because everybody wants to know their role. And then that person's helping the other person. So nobody's leaving anybody behind. And you all have to work together and you all have to communicate. It's really important that you don't lose your shit, because when you get agitated, then everybody else gets agitated. People feel it. They taste it in their food. And we don't want any of that stuff. So we want to have a good time, enjoy ourselves, take it easy, relax. Life is stressful sometimes, so let's not have it be a place where you walk in and you feel like it's stressful. You want to walk in and have a good vibe. As
the leader, do you have to display that, of course, and not just say it? They watch you and see how you are under pressure, and you're calm in those moments, so it probably lets the team know that it's okay. Angela's dealing with it. I can deal with it.
I try my best. I'm human
Yes,
too.
of course,
There are
yeah.
days where you just can't put that face on, but you try your very best
Yep.
to put that face on.
Yep.
But sometimes some people can see through it.
Yep.
You know, but sometimes too you're kind of honest about it. Like we
Yes.
have a lot of people that like, it's amazing the people that come through the door. Sometimes you just look at them and you're like, you could really use a hug. You can just feel it off of them. I've hugged a stranger here and there because you could just feel it off of them. And it's really great that we can meet people where they are without judgment and make them feel like it's safe, that, you know, if they're having a hard day, that they know that it's not going to go further than the door, that they can be vulnerable and talk about something and have a conversation about it and feel like it's okay. I have that gift where people say, oh my God, I can't believe I'm telling you this. I don't even know you.
Because that's extra stuff. That's not, you know, selling the food. And
It's nothing about the food. It might be about, you wouldn't believe the conversations that I have. And that's the thing that makes it feel so special, is that you're connecting with somebody on a completely different level. Food might have been the start of it, but you might have been able to have a conversation with them that maybe has helped them past a roadblock. And vice versa too, right? They helped me too. I've been through quite a few hardships from having my business open and having to deal with stuff that I never expected to happen. The passing of my nephew there, and trying to put a face on when all you want to do is hide from the world is really challenging. So, yeah, it's sometimes it's a lot when you leave the restaurant and you just need to, because you see so many people on a daily basis that sometimes you have to just close yourself off to not see people, because sometimes you get a little lost yourself.
Absolutely, because you're doing a lot for others, you know, and they're giving you, you know, they're coming in and talking to you and telling you about the sad things in their life. And how do you separate, or how do you, you know, hear those things, feel them, and then, you know, not let it affect your day or, you know, affect your time when you leave work?
I feel grateful that they feel comfortable enough to share something with me that's like that. And sometimes people just want to be heard too. So I think that I feel like that's what makes it special, is that that people can do that. And I know that when you go into lots of restaurants, you don't feel that from people at all. That's why I feel like our place is different. That, you know, everybody brings in friends and people that I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I get to know them more, or I get to know who, like, in a roundabout way, we're all very connected. So it is hard at times, but at the same time, it's so worth it to be able to feel like you just had that person that came in and shared that with you.
Yeah.
And that's a really special thing. Sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's happy, sometimes you don't even know what to say. Sometimes you just say, you know, I'm really sorry that that's happened to you. That must be really hard right now. And it's not about fixing it, but sometimes you might be able to give them an idea, or you might be able to point them towards a person that might be able to help with something like that.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes it's just about listening.
Yeah.
You know, and people, we have this thing about, you know, caring eyes. Like when someone sees someone who authentically is concerned or, you know, interested and concentrating on like what's in front of them, what they call it is, we have this, as children, we see our mother's caring eyes, right? And warm and nurturing. And we look for that as we go through the world, as when someone has warm and caring eyes, you initially feel like I can speak to that person, I can say something for some reason, I can trust them, whether or not it's true or not. It's that goes back to our, you know, infancy with our mothers, that caring eye. And I think that it's really true, is that, you know, people can come to people who, you know, who are servants to them, but then, you know, tell them deep parts about their lives, and it's just a visceral thing that they see a person there and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna let go.
I think that's in us. I think that we're meant to not trust that for some reason, and it's like I don't know, I think that a lot of times we don't trust our own feelings or own vibes of things, of people, because we're not meant to. We're always meant to judge.
Yes.
And we're always meant to critique, and it's always meant to be the negative part of it. But if your body is telling you something, we're creatures, we're animals
Yeah.
like anybody else, like a deer in the woods. If your body is telling you this is an unsafe situation and I need to leave, it could be screaming at you, but we're not meant to trust that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Same way too when you meet somebody. You might say, you know what, I can't believe I just gave my entire everything to this person.
Mhm.
I don't know why I did that, but you weren't met with it as being something shameful, regret, or judgment, that they gave you peace in some way. So I feel like if we were to trust ourselves more with those feelings, albeit
Yes.
they're usually quite small and tiny,
Yep.
because a lot of people don't question themselves, but if we trust in that, a lot of times the reciprocation of it is really good. It's a positive thing too.
Yeah, because you can understand people in a few different ways, right? You can talk to them and get their analytical breakdown, and you get to know them empathetically in that way. You talk about your family, or, where you grew up, your childhood. But then there's also, for a long time, human beings coordinated, cooperated, and organized, all without language, right?
Yeah.
You would be across the field, and literally, I would look at your facial expression, and I would look at your body posture, and we could communicate to the group whether or not we were in danger, and a whole host of even emotions were developed, long before we ever, figured out language. We could tell something about a person a lot more quickly, almost instantly, just by their facial expressions, tone of voice, the way they're holding themselves, a lot quicker, and almost instantly. And that's something, early development that's still with us today, and it's actually like really beautiful when you think about it, that someone can say yes but they mean no.
Yes, absolutely. I think that that's so cool. It's human behavior, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that there's lots of industries that are studying human behavior, and they're manipulating us.
Yes.
Massively.
Oh yeah, the damn algorithm, and like
Yeah.
Instagram, and don't sue me, Instagram, but Instagram and these social networking sites. You can see where we're going with this stuff. It's the colors and the speed of things. It's really taking quite an effect on us, isn't it?
It is. I think that's like, I don't know about you, but personally, when I ingest a lot of social media, it makes me feel very down.
Yeah, it's a inherent feeling. Yeah, it's visceral again. You're just, my goodness, you can be scrolling for hours, right?
Yeah,
I've been
scrolling.
trying to be a lot more intentional about that in like the last few years. Even having my phone like further away from me when I sleep, just because of radiation and all this stuff people are hypothesizing about. But just the doom scrolling. Oh my God, yeah, you can feel it. Like your frontal lobe feels like it's got cotton in there or something after you've doom scrolled for a while. It's like, but I think that there's something addictive to it, and it's becoming a bigger issue. Do you find that even like you have trouble with? Do you ever have these issues at work where people can't put their phones down, or?
Not so much at my work, only because we're so fast paced, but we do use our phones on a regular basis with things. I mean, I use my phone to communicate and do emails and everything. I'm sitting at a Tim Hortons waiting for a tea, which I don't do very often. I got really pissed off in the pandemic and waited like 10 minutes at a drive-thru, and I said, forget it, now I take my tea with me to work.
Yeah,
it was a
never
long
went
standing
back.
thing, and I was like, no, I'm good, I take my tea. But like, if I'm like, say if I'm waiting to pick up my groceries or something like that, I'm on my phone, and I don't go on social media that much, but it's like I'll send emails off, and it's like those things that are on my list that I can go check for. I move that needle a little bit more and a little bit more. So I do feel like we use our phones for so much more than just for social media, but it is something where like it's a real thing where we're checking our phones like a tremendous amount of time. Like it's like an umbilical cord to us now.
Yep.
And it's getting scary. Like I know that the government is trying to look at like what it's doing to younger generations and taking cell phones out of these classrooms and all of these things, but I do think that also social media companies need to have some responsibility being taken for stuff like that, and like stop making these things so addictive. And it's not just on the children, it's on us, and it's on our older parents and everything. It's on every human.
Yeah, even as adults, it's quite taxing to the brain and
yeah.
mind. I find like if someone leaves like a conversation with me, the first thing I want to do is just pick up my phone. It's almost like, well, we'll just check it.
When you left the room, I literally thought about it. And I was like, stop that, look around.
Yeah. Be mindful of your, environment. That's
Yeah.
the thing too. I think that as we get pulled further down the technological line, we need to kind of balance that in some way, because I think people are feeling the effect, but they don't know what other alternatives are there. This is just life. It's like, you need to go out and be in nature, concentrate on something, for a little bit of time that you have some interest in. Put your phone down because I think like we aren't sure on what the data is yet, but I think long term cell phone use can have a lot of negative effects. I mean, we grew up with televisions, but this is a different kind of thing altogether. It's small and it's bright and it's fast and it's like your assistant. So you always have it with you and it becomes like your little buddy, right?
Mhm.
Now it's an AI for everything. So I just think that putting down my phone is definitely in my best interest over the last little while. Do you try to also, remove yourself from the phone world a little bit?
Yeah, well, my partner, he works away. So when he's home, I really feel like after work is done and I'm at his house and stuff like that, that we really, yeah, we watch TV, but it's different because you can still have TV and a conversation. Our phones are not with us. And I truly enjoy that. And it's a good routine that we've gotten ourselves into where our phones are not part of what we're doing.
Right. Okay.
Which is really important because I've been in other relationships where the phone was always there. And
Yeah.
I can say that I'm 100% a culprit of it too. Like it's not that
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
definitely not superior to it
Yeah,
by any
yeah.
means. And then I try to like if I'm going out, like if we're just going out to like Coldstream or wherever it is to have a drink or something, that I try not to have my phone there, that I'm present
Actually pay
in
attention
conversations.
to people.
Yeah, and actually pay attention to. Yeah. But again, it's like you it's hard because the second that you don't know the answer to information, you go onto the phone to look it up.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it's out again and stuff too. It's almost too convenient that you can't
Yes.
just have the answer not be known.
Yeah, how did we ever figure that stuff out before cell phones, encyclopedias?
Oh, yeah.
Right, right. You'd
They
have
were
to,
so outdated. We had the
Right.
whole thing.
right. You have to
Yeah.
look that word up. But I mean, it's also good because it does connect the world in some ways. So it has its pros, it has its cons. It's allowed information to speed up more quickly. It's allowed us to be more dangerous, obviously, like weaponry and things of that nature. People are talking a lot about the dangers of AI and where that kind of stuff can lead. I don't know. All I ever think about is like Terminator 2 or something like that, right? Where it's like, I
I
forget.
feel like the machines are going to take over and it's like a Mad Max thing or something. I'm like, that could really happen.
I hope it doesn't because
God,
I'm
I
just
hope not.
starting to live life, like you're at a point where you're starting to do things and
Yeah.
just like the world would not be warranted to end right now if it were up to me. Like I don't
No.
want I think it's but we're so lucky, Angela, right? No war, no famine. We don't have too many natural
safe.
disasters. We feel safe. Generally, good community. People are kind. It's easy to forget, all the blessings that we have too.
Yeah, I do think though too that just it's really it's very overwhelming to look outside of our own little box.
Big time.
And so I try not to. I know that that's like it's not that I don't, but I try to focus on the things that I can control within my own
Mhm.
and try to make those as good as I can
Yes.
because it's a little much.
There's
when
a
you
lot.
just go down the road and it's that much bigger and it's terrifying and it would cause you to not want to do anything because it's so scary and you think that what would be the point of doing anything because
Mhm.
it's just going to end in disaster or something. And I don't want to live like that.
The news and the media would have you convinced that there's some opponent always out there, whether it's this, whether it's that, but never really showing, the more optimal side of society, which in my experience has been more of the true reality. The more people I come in contact with and people I meet, generally they're decent people, but if you watch the news or if you hear, see the things online, you would assume that we're fighting over a lot of different ideologies or a lot of just things that don't really seem to like actually be taking place in the same way in the real world. Do you find that?
Yeah, I think that media is very sensationalized,
Mhm.
and it's a small group of people yelling really loudly,
Yes,
a lot
for
of it.
other
And
people usually.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that if you just look at your own community and what's going on and what you can improve and help with in a positive aspect, like I feel like there should be like a good news channel, good news
Yeah,
newspaper,
yeah, yep.
actually saying of all the things that we're
Yes.
trying to do to help our
Yes.
environment and like
Yes.
help with climates and help with this and help with that. Like if we actually focused on the positive solution focused stuff, then the world would look pretty fucking good.
Because, Angela, come on, there's got to be, for every bad story, just as many good stories.
Exactly.
There has to be.
Well, where's the scale? Is it like we're
Well,
at
that's
like
not attractive.
50% good, 50% bad, or are we
We
at
talked
80%?
about our nature, you know.
Yeah.
We love to dive into the negative stuff. It's attractive. That's why when car accidents happen, you know, or something bad happens, there's a fire, we look at it. But when, you know, things are more nice, positively, you know, growing, or something, you know, successful is happening, or people, you know, there's a hero story, we don't hear about that stuff.
No.
I feel as though there's a little bit. I think it's intentional that that's how the news is. Of course, it has to be because that's what makes the news. So, negativity. Why is that? You know, kind of like the main thing on the news these days. Why would that be?
I think it's because it gets people. That's kind of weird because like we're never meant to show aggression. We're never meant to show anger.
Especially women.
Yeah.
Like this gets
Must
into
be
the whole
crazy.
assertive, you know.
But like
or-
that's the thing is those types of emotions are uncomfortable. And if you're anything but those if you represent those emotions, then obviously it's erratic and crazy and everything is like that. As opposed to saying it's just an emotion.
Mhm.
And I think that people feed off of it because we've always been feeding off of it. If we started changing around the role where we're going to talk about more of the positive things, the positive reinforcements, the great things that are going on in our schools with our children, the good stories, as opposed to getting a text that says, oh, there's been an incident at school today.
Yeah.
Why can't we have, oh, you know what, there's been a really great day. We had a student that was an all-star and did blah, blah, blah. Do we,
Yes.
do we hear that? We don't.
Yes.
So if we start changing the narrative around to being a positive thing, then less of those negatives will start coming to light. It's not to say that they're not there,
Mhm.
but if you focus on the negative, what do you see? The negative.
Yes.
You focus on the positive, what do you see? The positive
positive.
in everything. So I
Yes.
prefer personally to look at being a solution focused person and the positive person because I think the negative is shit and I don't want to be in it.
And I mean, you mentioned just that, you know, you want to be part of the solution, not the problem.
Mhm.
And you talked as, you know, be part of your team and how they're really a big part of creating that. Now, what do you look for when you're creating a team? And can you tell me a little bit about who your team are and, you know, how the individuals and how they helped you, you know, do what you're able to do?
Wow. Okay, so a couple of my team, so actually my best friend, she works with me. She's worked with me through other restaurants too.
Mhm.
And I didn't hire her because she's my best friend. It's just kind of convenient
Mhm.
that she is. But when we work, it's not like we're best friends. She's Joan and I'm Angela.
Mhm.
Like we have a certain thing of like, you know, the goal is to get to the end of the day, to do the things that we want to do. But, and other people that came, like, they kind of show up. It's kind of strange because it's like at the minute that you say that you're open, like you're looking for somebody, you might have somebody that, like, I had a girl that was there. She brought in another girl who's Kat. One of
Okay,
the
yeah.
girls there, Kat, who's phenomenal. And they're all phenomenal. I got Zelda, I got Kat, I got Taryn. Joan poached Taryn from McDonald's. She worked there for 5
Okay,
years.
yeah.
Saw her in a drive-thru and said, Ange, I think this girl would be really good. And I said, tell her if she's interested to bring us down a resume. She came down that next day with a resume. So that showed me that she had initiative.
Right,
And
yep.
she was interested in change.
Mhm.
Very different from a fast food world going into a real food.
Yes.
Going
Of course,
from
yeah.
a huge corporation where she does probably have pretty good job security considering she's been there for 5 years to a very small local food shop. So that was a big step for her to do that. When I think about somebody, I don't do talking interviews a lot.
Okay.
I do working interviews. So it's like 2 days where you and I, we work together as a team. You come in and we train you. So it's 2 to 3 days shifts to see whether or not we're a good fit for one another, is what it is. So you get to know a lot about a person, because in an interview, they're going to show you their best of everything. But when you're working with them hands-on, and all of a sudden you get a huge rush of people that are coming through the door, you get to really see how they react when they're under stress and pressure. So did they just freeze? Did they just stand there looking aimlessly? Did they say, okay, what can I do? Okay, I can do that there. What else do you need from me? Would you like me to do this here? So you get to really see who that person is through that working interview. And sometimes you'll see them where, you know, like maybe it's a position where it was somebody I had to do with like accounting and bookkeeping, and she's like, this is a really cool place. And then I know she wasn't really writing anything down, and this is a job that you can't really remember everything for that particular part of the job. So I thought, you know what, I don't think that this is probably that right position of the person that I was looking for, because with accounting and bookkeeping, I know nothing.
Right.
So I need somebody who's going to know way more than what I do and teach me some of this stuff, because I don't need to be the person who knows everything. I just need to be the person who finds the right people and puts them in the right position.
Right.
And let their gifts grow with us as a team. So that's something that's really important to me, is to make sure that I don't care if I need to know everything. I have no interest in knowing everything. I need to know a little bit about everything, but I need to know that you're going to give me the best results if I put you in this position. And that's going to take us to this next part of where we want to be. And that's what I have in my team. And I've dealt with people in my team who have lost loved ones. So we had to deal with, you know, them leaving, coming back when they were ready, having a space for them to be there, working with them that sometimes they might have to break down through work. They might have to leave, and that's okay. And not having judgment and being upset with them that they can't keep it together, because guess what? I've been through it. I understand where you're coming from, and it's okay, and we'll get through it. It's been a rough day. And yeah, I think it's really exciting. I have a new hire that'll be coming up. She's a high school student. She has ADHD. And unfortunately, I think that she's young, so I think that sometimes she probably feels like the ADHD holds her back, when I really feel like it's a gift.
Yeah.
Because not everybody has ADHD or understands it, but when you have that and you need to be highly engaged in something, a cooking industry is huge when it can come to that, when you have positive reinforcement, that you're working hard, you're doing things constantly differently every single day, and you have somebody giving you positive feedback, that can excel you to go further than you ever expected, because you have that mentorship in there from that person, and then that'll open up doors to them that they thought that they wouldn't be able to go into.
So you're nurturing a lot of, you know, the seed in people. You're not, you know, trying to change or, you know, make someone conform so much. You know, you do have your principles about what you would like to do, but you're kind of allowing them to be themselves. And then if, you know, things transpire that are hard, you even have an environment where you say it's okay. Like, you can go through what you're going through, because we understand, you know, we're dealing with people. You know, this isn't a robot. What makes you want to go there with people? What, like, is there something with your upbringing? Was it your experiences? Is it, you know, your current existence? What makes you care about people in that way to actually go ahead and offer them that space where they can just be?
I think it's kind of human decency, if anything. I mean, we're not for everybody. And everybody that comes through the door who wants to work there doesn't get to work there. They have to be the right fit of a person. Just because we're fun doesn't mean that we don't have things that we have to do. But it's just, I don't know what makes me like that itself. I came from a family that worked really hard, but I also came feeling like I never worked hard enough.
Okay.
Too.
Okay.
So, because I just always found that I was the one who was never doing enough. Doing more than what my brothers were doing and stuff like that. Like, they go. I go, but I'm good. Like, I need balance. They're older than me, and they're still just go. And I'm like, I can't be that person at all. I don't know. I think we're all a work in progress. And I think that when you find your tribe of your people, you come with them with acceptance of who they are and vice versa, of who I am. And we are all working together to become better people and do more things together and create good from it. So I don't know. I've never worked in an environment where I've had somebody belittle me. I think that might be like a core value of mine, but I have a huge amount of respect for myself. And when I was younger and being bullied for being overweight and all of that stuff, I had a lot of people who were just really mean to me, I think is what it was. And then after I had my weight loss and stuff, it was all of a sudden I became visible, which to people that I literally knew my entire life and didn't see me for a couple of years, and then they would introduce themselves to me, and I'm like, are you joking? We went to school together for like 12 years, and they wouldn't even know who I was. And so I felt like I was almost like invisible. So maybe I just have a different perspective on of people. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. I care very, very deeply for every single person who works with me, not for me, with me, because we are a team. And I genuinely, even if they left tomorrow, I would support them in whatever endeavors they have, because I believe that everybody has their own path. And if it's not with me, then okay, well, wherever it is, how can I help you? It's important to do that for people. So I don't know, I guess it's just who I am.
Oh, I mean, it's exceptional, right? Because you're busy, of course, and you're dealing with many people. And that's a way that you help them through those rough moments and help them to work to their best ability and even become, their best self. Who helps Angela, with things like, you have your work life, but do you have people that you can depend on that, keep you afloat when times get tough?
I do. I have a hard time opening up. Usually it's bubbles inside until it explodes. My brother was the one who I had a very important conversation with, because before I went and opened the restaurant, I took some months off of work. I had a little bit of cash left, so I was kind of and it was during COVID too, so it was a needed break that I had. I felt like I was done with cooking, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And after him asking me some very interesting questions, and just thought-provoking questions, I guess, about who I was, where I wanted to be, what I thought my life would be like. And I mean, like, I'm 45 almost now, so this was like, in my 40s, and you're supposed to have it figured out by then, which is bullshit. Nobody figures out anything. You just kind of go along and hope for the best. But so during that conversation, so he was really that person. Even growing up, he was that person who I always, like, my mom wasn't always the most positive person. She had a lot of failures that happened in her life, or things that she saw as failures, so she didn't want her children to repeat it. But yet, whenever we would do something, if it wasn't what she thought was right, she'd be really pessimistic about it, of, well, what if this happens, and what if this happens? So I get really frustrated with, well, what if it happens? Then I fail, it's fine. So my brother would always come back with, like, she's just trying to protect you. It's okay. She means well. And she always does. And I love my mom. We're very close. But she's a lot less pessimistic now. She just shakes her head at both of us. But no, I think he was the one that probably mentored me more, because he was just that, I guess it wasn't that he was the sound of reason, because he wasn't telling me everything. He was asking me the questions that I knew all along, but I had to put words to it.
Right, yes.
So he was the one who brought out these things in me,
like a good
and asked
book.
me those. What's that?
Like a good book.
Yes, exactly. Right? And I feel like I now ask those questions of my own crew of people. And I ask them thought-provoking questions that make them think, because if they're not happy about something in their lives, whether it's physical, mental, or whatever, I ask them those types of thought-provoking questions, not because I want to know the answer, but more of I want them to tell me to tell themselves what their answer is. Because if they answer the questions, their picture becomes clearer of who it is that they are and who it is that they want to be and become. So I think that it's important, like, that's how I kind of pose a lot of things at work. If we don't know the answer to something, we talk, we discuss. we ask those types of questions, and then we go down that best route for it. So I guess it was probably my brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's your older brother, right?
I have two older brothers, yes, and he's the middle child, the golden child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, with brothers and growing up, did you guys ever have, like, combat moments or anything like that?
You mean like physical? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was a tomboy through and through. Oh my gosh, my brothers were mean to me. Oh, absolutely.
They. I mean, it's initiation a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
Not too much, but it's within somewhat of good fun. Looking back, at least it seems like it.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I get along really, really well with both of my brothers. I really do. But yeah, no, it was. I was the youngest. I was the baby. I was the little girl, and there was always guys at my house. So like our house was like the meeting house. So there was always people. Like I would come home from a bar, and then I'd go to my bed, and I'm like, "What are you doing in here?" It would be one of my brother's friends. I'm like, "Get out of my bed," type thing. So we always had that meeting place of always having got people around our houses, which was really great. So I used to joke that I used to have like 13 brothers because it didn't really matter. Like if I was in trouble, I could go to any one of them and they would be like, okay, no, little Angie needs help. So yeah, I've had a very good upbringing. I'm very grateful for what I had.
What was your experience as a young child growing up in Antigonish?
It was boring.
Boring, yeah?
It was and it was. I always felt like I played softball growing up. I was a tomboy, and I was overweight. So I know I keep on coming back to the weight thing, but it really forms who you are as a person when that's all that people see.
Yes. Yep.
So and like I said, the invisibility of it. So that when you finally do, when I did change my eating and my health and stuff like that and became more fit and physically active, I was still Angie, but it was like people were noticing who I was for the first time. So it kind of fucks with your head, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, well, I was always here this whole time.
I think in some cases there can be a little resentment, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, where the fuck were you? I was always a person, always here, but now because I've tweaked, the way you can visualize me, now I'm important.
I have value now?
Yeah, and those are not the kind of people that you usually make amends with or, move forward with. Usually you just like, I can do better than you now, most likely. So
yeah, there was a couple of those in passing for sure.
Yeah,
that,
right.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have time for me now? Good day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. No, it's definitely different. It took a really, 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 like I'm talking years for me to come and be at a place where, and maybe that's the best part is that I had experienced that part of feeling invisible, not worthy. So I had to rely upon myself to give myself that feeling of I will not allow another person to disrespect me.
Yes.
In this way. I will not let somebody belittle me in this way. So I think that I love my upbringing. It was grateful. I don't regret who I was or who I am right now, but it definitely did form and shape I think who I was as a person during being a kid who was overweight for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird that I own a food restaurant now and thinking about good food and healthy food and all of that stuff. It's really strange.
Not really, though, right? Because that intention about wanting to create, the kind of person you want to be, and it was about, getting. Why do you feel people want to be better, though? What's the point in losing weight, to all the little girls out there? What was? Were you just unhappy with how you saw yourself at one point? Was it just, I'm not healthy? There's, the way you saw yourself when you had the weight.
I didn't want to be, the person that I wanted to be was not the person that I was when I had my kids. So after I had my children, I realized that, how they say, like, practice what you preach?
Yep.
Yeah, so I was preaching a lot of things and not practicing a lot of things. So that's when I was like, I was getting ready to go to work, and my son was 10 months old, and I was like, okay, I am not happy with who I am right now. I don't want to be I want to be the mom who's involved.
Right.
I want to be the
Mhm.
mom who's active and healthy. There's a little vanity in there too,
Yeah,
for sure.
which is okay.
Yeah, that's fine. But I wanted to be that person. So my kids never knew who I was in like what I looked like beforehand. They were younger and stuff like that. And so they don't see I grew up they don't see the struggles that I grew up with
Hmm.
because I was able to part ways with that itself. So yeah, it was definitely my kids that motivated me to do it. And then the bigger motivation really was from a lot of anger. And anger's an amazing,
Yep.
amazing motivator.
Mhm.
Especially, too. I'm sure going through Muay Thai and stuff like that
Yeah.
there, how much like you can literally harness events that happened in your life
Oh,
and
yeah.
put you right back in that situation, and there's nothing that's going to bring you down from competing and doing what you need to do to get through it.
It can be, that almost your life's, trajectory. It can be that thing that leads you straight to hell or, straight to promise. But I can agree when I was in Muay Thai and my father had passed away a year or so before I started, the pad holder, the mitts that I was hitting, literally, were this visual expression of, the pain of losing my father, right? It was right there. I wasn't hitting him but I was hitting the idea of losing him.
Yeah.
And that, I think, in a lot of ways, actually represented a lot of my life in that period when I think about it. There was a point. I wasn't adverse, let's say, to being, in some kind of altercation on the streets. Anyone that knows me probably knows that, and so probably, they look at me a little bit of a paradox because now I'm talking about meditation, but there was certainly a period when I was very much involved in that anger and that where that can take you. And that was really a part of my early martial arts career. But it's good when that anger can be used as a vehicle towards something positive, like learning a new skill, like in martial arts. And I think a lot of people go into martial arts for that exact reason, because it's teaching you, body control, emotional control, and then an emotional stepping back that you can hurt someone, but you do it in a controlled space. It's teaching you that emotional maturity in a sense. But yeah, that anger can take you, so far, and to be able to lose weight through. So anger isn't just something that you use to hurt people, but can be used as something that changes your life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that can be kind of beautiful, and I think that's also, so human too, right? That to be angry and then to do something positive, and then to let that anger go, and then to be on the other side of that and have this experience now. Did you ever think that you would get through the weight process? Like whenever you were going through it, did you ever doubt that you would be able to achieve your goals through your weight and through your business?
No, I don't think so. I think goals are interesting because, like, you can say, "Oh, I'm not going to do this again. That's my goal,"
Mhm.
but then you lose that goal really fast. I find because you're in the midst. I don't know myself. I just find like I can say a goal,
Mhm.
but then it's done, and I'm like, "What was that goal again?" Like 3 months later, I'm like,
Yeah.
"What was it?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, right. I already did that, or did I do that? I don't know. Oh, it's this one now."
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done like morning pages where you write. I've done like a lot of different things and self-reflection and those
Mhm.
types of things too, but I feel like I don't stay in the moment long enough to see whether or not the goal was actually achieved or not achieved. Like
Mhm.
I don't have a problem setting like a financial goal,
Mhm.
one that's like that you can see really easily, like like I want this much money in my bank account. Goal achieved, click,
Yes,
right? That's an easy goal to have. But whenever you have like this arbitrary goal of I want to lose blah blah, and you get to that, all of a sudden you're like, okay, it's not really that different than what it was
Mhm.
before.
Yes.
Isn't. So I think that goals are fun and nice and interesting, but it's the path along the way. It's not necessarily the goal part of it. It's the things that you've learned during that to get to that, because usually by the time you get to that, you don't even want to be there. You're 10 steps ahead of that.
Yes.
Because you've already, like, your brain has opened up to the point of where it's like, well, I'm going to do that anyways. I'm going to do that next Tuesday. I'll be achieving that by then. I want to be here next. Like sometimes when people say do like a couch to 5K or something, and next thing you know, they're running a marathon or an ultra marathon. Whenever before they couldn't even get off of a couch. So
yes.
it's like the goal is there to get you almost like jump started, but it's generally not the end, and it's only just that stopping point, because once you start and you see what it is that you can actually accomplish by doing tiny little increments of things consistently over time, then you end up like saying, oh, that was a goal. Oh, wow. Oh, I didn't even think about that one. I'm so on to this one now, right? Like, it's so much bigger. You dream bigger, you want more, you do more. And that doesn't have to be financially. It could be like something completely different, right? Like to do anything that you wanted to. I went on vacation 2 years into my business. I never even thought that would happen in 5 years.
Right.
But my team made me be okay with it, that I was okay that I could go for an entire week with both of my kids who also work at the restaurant, because I had such an amazing team that invested in me and us and made it successful. That week away was just wonderful. And I'm so grateful for that. But I didn't think it was going to happen. I was like, oh God, no, I couldn't even put that in as a goal. What are you talking about? No, I own a restaurant. That's my life. Yeah.
Now, is it accurate to say that, of course, it's not about the goal. Perhaps it's about growth and becoming just in the process. What a lot of people are saying now, it's, forget about, reaching a certain number. It's about, are you learning and developing each day by day, growing through that process. It's more about, the maturity process over the long term, instead of something that you can check off a box.
Yeah, well, like, I think what they say is it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Yeah, so when I first started the restaurant, I was like, woohoo, we're having some fun, we're hanging out, we're doing these things, right? We're just creating some food. And now I'm like, Fresh Food Matters is so much more than me. It's huge in the way of our community and the impact that we have, that I don't feel like, it took me a long time to actually say that I owned Fresh Food Matters to the actual public of people, because I didn't feel as though I deserved it.
Okay.
And that I didn't create anything that was really amazing for the longest time. Like, before I opened the brick and mortar shop, I was going to sell my business to somebody for $5,000, and that was it.
Okay.
And they were going to buy it, but they couldn't, because they worked with a company that was conflicting of interest. So I was just going to close it down. And I was like, okay, well, there's nothing in there. That was it. And then now when I look at it, I'm like, no, there's actually something here. Like, what I can see in the next 5 years really is up to us, whether or not we want to take a huge leap and go do something really, really big. Like, we're moving into a new location that's pretty big.
Yes, talk about that a little bit, actually.
Well, he's the mudder's in there today, so that was great. He was mudding and drywall taping, so we hope to be in there in the next probably 4 weeks. My goal is June 4th to be in there with a very, very quick turnaround. Whether or not that'll happen, we'll see. We'll do our very best. But yeah, it's exciting. We're moving to, and the place that I was in was perfect as a startup. It was on the main street. It was a little away from the main street, but it was tiny. It wasn't expensive. Like, it was a great way to get my foot in the door.
Right.
And we've renovated and I've remodeled. I've moved around everything in that restaurant probably a half a dozen or more times to change things around, the layout of it, so that we could have a retail space for customers to go into and everything. But now we're really constricted with space.
Okay.
And the flow with the restaurant is. Like, when you get a couple of people in there, it's quite hectic. It's quite overwhelming. There's a lot of things that are going on.
It's a little tight in that area too.
It is very tight.
You guys have so much business. You deserve a bigger space, like down at the mall.
I think so. It's only about 200 square feet more.
Okay.
But it's a different layout.
And
more parking, more mobility. We have a lot of senior clientele. Not all of our clientele is seniors, but it's really great to be able to service a community, our elder community, where They could be not feeling very well. They could be going through cancer treatments. They could have mobility issues. Maybe they can't use their hands very well.
And the transit bus will be able to go down
Literally
there,
right in front of our shop. So the fact that we get to help people eat real food that they've grown up with, like mashed potatoes and pork roast dinners and stuff like that, where they can actually have a proper meal because they're not used to eating at McDonald's or Dairy Queen and stuff. And that does affect your overall health. Like, I mean, it's fine. I eat it too, but it's not like eating it every single day. And then if you have a mobility issue where you can't use a knife to chop something or like peel a potato, you're in a real pickle.
Yes.
And there's not a lot of places where you can actually go and say, okay, I would just like to have a home cooked meal. It's next to impossible, let alone they would actually have to leave their house to do it. And some just can't do that.
Because you have the delivery option as well.
We do have a delivery option too, and the new person that I hired as well. So even there's a lady who called me last week. She lives in Toronto. Her mom is down here. And I said, well, where does she live? And she said, this is where she lives. And I said, oh, she's just right behind me. I said, I'll just drop it off on my way home. And she's like, really? You would do that? I'm like, yeah, she's just right there. Her name is Joyce. She's lovely. So, yeah, and she got some really cool things. I wouldn't think she'd be into, like, Korean pork and ramen, but she likes the spicier stuff. I was like, cool, this is awesome. So, yeah, I'm really excited about our new shop because we're going to have a couple of different revenue streams.
Okay, yeah.
That we don't already have. But,
such as?
Coffee.
Okay,
which I know nothing about.
Yes, more coffee.
Yes.
Everybody
I am not a
needs
coffee girl. I'm a tea girl.
That's okay. That's okay.
We have that, and then there's a couple of other things that I can't divulge at this moment because our thing is that when we get in there, we want to make sure that our customer service and our current food that we have still stays the same level, the same expectation of it being good.
Yes,
that's really important to us. So you have to make sure that you're not doing more things just to do more things. You want to be really intentional about what you're doing, and that it makes sense within the business and the brand. I hate that word brand. I think it's so snooty. It's just our business is what it is. But I get the brand part of it and the marketing beside it and stuff. Actually, my social media girl, Megan, she worked at my shop. And then she's like, hey, one day she goes, I could do your media for you. And I'm like, you could? Because I'm I'm partially dyslexic, so I mix up words all the time and numbers, so that's why I don't do accounting and bookkeeping. But so she went from working in my shop to now she does my full social media, and then from there she grew having more clients because I introduced her to a couple of clients, and then they said, well, who's doing your social media? So there's this whole connection and circle of how we meet people that come through the door that you never know or what they do and how you can connect them with other people.
Yeah.
And having like customers who, maybe you can help them. Oh, I know this person. Can I connect you with this person? Sure. Absolutely.
Now, do you find that that's like a sense of karma? Like one thing happens and you believe something else good is going to come and you choose to believe that and good things, happen for you?
I 100% choose that. I think you get what you give.
Yes.
And if you put the good out, you'll get the good back. I know I say that I have like 2.8 friends because
What? Okay, go on. Yeah.
Well, I had to.
The 0.8 friend is going to be...
That's Zelda. I said you can't have a full point because I'm at my max.
Okay. Well, that's good. You went up a point, right?
I did, almost, yes. Okay. Yes. But, that's the thing is that, I don't need a large circle of friends. I don't have a lot of time because I give the large majority of my life to my business.
Yeah.
And the friends that I have, like Joan, her and I have been friends since we were 16 years old, in high school.
Yes.
And we had a large stint where we weren't friends. We had years where we didn't even talk.
Yep.
And then it was one phone call and she called me and I was like, hello. And she's like, hello. And then we're back together again.
No burned bridges. I have friends like that too. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. It's a really, really special thing. So, I do believe, and then if you have people who are constantly in drama, negativity, I can't be around that. I've cut people out of my life.
Me too. Yep.
Because of that. Because I'm like, I'm sorry, but every time that I'm around you, all it is negative, negative, negative. And I can't do that. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry if life is shit right now, but I just can't do that.
We all have reasons to make life harder, don't we? To complain or for things, not going the way they think they should. There's a lot of reasons to have issue with your existence. Everyone's got them.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but then when you deal with your dad and being sick most of your life,
Yep.
you have a very different perspective on what's hard
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
life.
And it becomes normal too.
It
right?
does, it does.
Mhm.
And then when you see what he had to go through, and like what my dad had to go through with blood cancer, he's truly my hero, and what he went through, and having to experience that, I feel very grateful. But it taught me a lot of lessons about, making sure that you kind of check yourself when life gets rough. And it's
Yeah.
not to say that you don't deserve it, because I've had my oldest child, he said the same thing. He's like, I feel like I shouldn't complain because I have such a good life. And I'm like, well, you're allowed to. That's okay. You're supposed to. Just because you may have it better than others, doesn't mean that you don't have validation for it. Like, you can still be okay with that. And he's like, yeah, I know. I said, well, just know that it's okay. You can have down days and stuff like that. That's allowed. That's normal. So, but it's hard for him to do that, because he feels like he has a really good life, and then some of his friends don't have a great life.
He feels up badly that he has more than other people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting kind of perspective for a young person to have. Does he look at people and tend to understand, just empathetically, that people sometimes have more than others, and that I can understand people have more than others, but where does kind of the negative response come from? Does he just feel like he doesn't deserve to have?
I think it's the deserving part of it,
Okay.
that because his life is generally good,
Mhm.
and I mean, he is transitioning, he is trans,
Mhm.
so he has a whole bunch of things of life that are coming at him.
Right.
And as a mom, I want to support them. It doesn't matter, as long as you're happy and you're happy for yourself and you're a good person. That's literally all I care about. Be good and be kind and be happy.
Yes.
For yourself, not
Live
nobody
your
else's
own life,
job to make
exactly.
you happy. So yeah, I think that because he feels as though he generally has a really good life, that whenever he does have people in his friends group that don't necessarily have the best,
Mhm.
then he feels bad about complaining that he's not having such a great time, because sometimes it could maybe be thrown back in their face too.
Yeah, for
Well, what do
sure.
you have to complain
Yeah.
about? You have all of this. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to have your voice heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Because everyone's dealing with something, whether we
Yes.
perceive their life to be perfect or not. I think that people are, so much involved in themselves that when people, do have perceived challenges, we think, well, why would I deserve it and they not? And I think, like, a lot of times, media puts pressure on people to feel bad about the more beautiful things about their life and the things that they can, be happy about. There's, I think, this idea where, you don't want to show off, the positive sides of your life because it could upset someone. But isn't that kind of why, you want to achieve things, is to be happy about those moments when you do well?
Yeah, if we look at it as the world looking at negative to positive, that's, I think, a really big thing of it, is that they're focusing on the negative and the downfall of people feeling bad that they're feeding into, as opposed to being happy about, like, being proud of something.
Mhm.
And I don't necessarily know if it's the word show off is right for it. It's just they're expressing who they are in a natural way.
Mhm.
And that if they have positivity for some reason, or they don't get down as much
Right.
about something, that it's easier for them to crawl out of that hole. But
Mhm.
they don't understand the internal voices that are in their head. It may look easy on the outside,
Right.
but you don't know that person could have been, thinking about that for the past 6 months.
Yes.
Riddling in their brain,
Mhm.
and then they're crawling their way out of it slowly. Like, just because what you see on the outside is not necessarily what is actually going on the
Yep.
inside too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yes, it really is. How do you comfort your child when they say, like, I don't deserve to be happy, or I don't deserve that certain thing? Why does, this person not have that? How do you as a mother, try to fix these things that you can't really naturally fix?
I just ask them more questions, really. I'm not trying to fix the response of it. I just kind of ask, like, well, why is it that you feel like that?
Mhm.
And is it that you can't give validation to that? Do you think that because you have it per se better than somebody else, that you don't have a right to it or not, and just having it come at it a way of like that it's okay. Like I'm grateful that you feel that you have a good life. That's what I want as a mother, for you to have a good life. That's my goal. But I'm also grateful that you can see that others can struggle, but you can also meet them where they are. So they should be able to meet you where you are too. So it's not a lot of conversation we have about it, because he doesn't like to open up about those types of things.
It's hard.
Yeah, so whenever he
difficult.
does, I feel very grateful for the fact that he's letting me in on those types of things that really bother him, those issues, and that he's giving me space and feels comfortable enough that I'm not going to judge them or say, well, that's just ridiculous, and have an outlandish reaction to it. I think it's really just important to be able to be like, thank you for sharing that with me. I really appreciate that. And, you know, I don't know how I would deal with something like that. How do you deal with something like that? And ask them, put it more on them, and them to find the answers. It's not about me talking.
Right.
It's about them coming up with the solution on their own, and hopefully me asking those questions that will help them come up with a way to deal with it.
Because so often parents just want to, avoid maybe these conversations and
I'm not an avoider.
not have them.
Nope.
And just let things, kind of compile and, see where it goes. It's probably in our best interest to face those things head on.
Yeah.
Right? School, how have you found that school is for, like, your trans child? You mentioned your child being trans and transitioning, and society. How are you finding that whole situation and dynamic is playing out, and have there been any, tough moments or, great moments? I'm kind of curious, because we hear about this kind of more happening and being more open nowadays about these transitions. I'm curious, from what you can say safely about your son, how has that moment kind of been for you?
For me personally, I feel very grateful that they felt safe enough to share it with me.
Yeah.
I think from a school standpoint, it's so funny because he reminds me of me when I was younger, but he has like so much more confidence that he doesn't give a shit. Like, and I know that might be a little bit of a front at times, but like, all in all, he seems to know himself way more than what I knew myself at that age, and has more confidence in themselves, that who they are. I'm grateful that it's starting to be a regular conversation, that people can start to feel comfortable with their individualism, who they are, how they feel. I think that's really important. Through school, I think most people were kind of fearful of him, which is kind of strange, because he doesn't give that perception to me whatsoever of it. I haven't really had to deal anything with school. There was like a couple of bullying things, but that was just dickheads on the bus, and I don't think that was about trans or any of that stuff.
Is this your daughter transitioning to a gentleman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And this, yeah. So it's not out there publicly for everybody as of yet. But like, I think the hardest thing was at the shop, where when we were having conversations about it and talking about it, and then I would hear him say that his pronouns were he, him. So to me, I would hear that, and I would say, okay. And then I would want to respect him, because if he was feeling that way, I wouldn't say my daughter.
Yes.
So I would address him as my child. And then eventually I would start doing he, him. So now I'm with, this is my son, his name is this. So people would kind of look, and I know where their heads would be going.
Of course, yeah.
But it's a great conversation to have, because we have other people at work who have smaller children, and they're not necessarily versed in trans, he, him, or any of those things. So Koi is open that the other people at work can ask him questions of like, well, how do you maneuver through this, and how do you do this, and how do you do that? So it's a really healthy relationship, where it's like they're learning from him, because just in case their kids go through it, they have a little bit of a handle on it, that they know what types of questions to ask, how to support them, those types of things.
Absolutely.
So it's actually a really positive environment with that, and we have a lot of different people who walk through our doors as well. So seeing diversity is really important as well. I hope to have a little bit more diversity in the shop as we move into the new location too, for different ethnicities as well, because I think that's really important. And just to be able to come to a place where even if you may look different or be different, that you're accepted, because we're all different.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, nobody's
Absolutely.
the same whatsoever.
Mhm.
So, and having people accept you for whatever is really wonderful.
Is that part of your ethos with Fresh Food Matters? Is just acceptance and trying to progress in that way where you're pushing those boundaries and you're gonna make people visible whether other people like it or not.
Yeah, I don't really have any rules around what people wear at work, what type of jewelry they wear, how they wear their makeup or their hair, as long as they're dressed appropriately so that they don't get burned.
Right.
That's pretty much all there is. I think everybody is very individual, and I support their individualism, and that's what makes them who they are, and that makes them special for themselves. So I think that I'm very much not a square in the box kind of person, and I think that if you have more diversity, then people can have connections that they never expected to have, and then hopefully that can bring down their fear when they meet somebody else that may not look the same as them. Yeah, I think that that's really important as a business to support all different walks of lives of people. Doesn't matter. I mean, if we literally, with this, if we had a zipper and we unzippered it ourselves and we wore everything on the outside, what would you make fun of?
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, oh, wow, gee, look at your ligament. That's, like, way bigger than mine. I'm really upset with you right now. Like,
yes.
It's just ridiculous.
And a lot of it is just our assessment of what we think people are thinking, the idea that they're thinking. I say this probably almost every podcast now, but it's a line from Marcus Aurelius, and the idea is that, your bad thought, it's like, how does it hurt? Well, in my ability to see it in you, I can imagine that particular thought. But that particular thought, if it doesn't cause me to physically harm someone else, act with injustice, to steal, to harm, to act completely contrary to my higher self or the self that I want to be, then it's not necessarily a misfortune. The greatest good fortune is to endure and overcome. And I like to always think about that. It's a long quote, but I like to think about that when I'm dealing with people, is that usually it's my assessment of what I think they're thinking about me. And it's usually a reflection of either my past or some future that I want to avoid. I'm usually not really sometimes focusing on the person. And I think that a lot of that gets missed, is that when we're, saying, this person I don't understand, or that person is different from me, or that person shouldn't do this, or they shouldn't do that, or they shouldn't live a life like that, it's because we're looking at it from a framework of particularly only ourselves, right? And people take that as reality, but a lot of times it's just perception.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Perception. That's interesting, because we just talked about how whenever you can have communication with somebody without even opening your mouth, and it's that perception. So you do that once over as you look at them and you're like, is this a person I can trust? Is this a person I can't trust? Why is it that I can't trust them? What is the reasoning behind it? Is it because of something that happened in the past? Or is it something that I want to avoid if I confront it? It's very interesting.
Right? Because I think about that often when I have conversations with people about just anything. It's like, are all men like this? It's like, well, they can't be, right? Or are all women like this? Or are all those people like that? And that just has so much to do with our perceived reality of people, because it's so much easier when we meet them just to put them in that box, because we as people don't have a lot of time for all this stuff that's not directly in our focus. So when that stuff comes up, we think, well, that person is that thing, they fit in that box, and I can forget about it now. They're just that. And except there's so much depth to people and so many layers that's one of those things that you have to understand when you're dealing with something that's so new, like, trans and transitioning, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Angela, I also wonder, if you were going to, give someone, a business 101 about, getting into the food industry, a lot of people say, like you said, just don't do it. But obviously you're not one of those people. What would you tell someone to expect, obviously, who's going to take on this, they love food? You said there's only so many that came from the NSCC graduation in the last few years. But what would you tell to those people that really do love food and who want to do something like you and who are listening?
Oh boy, what would I tell them? If they wanted to start their own business?
Yeah.
I think that my starting of my own business really was with the farmers market. Okay. I think it's a very low barrier to entry. First of all, it gives you a really good insight as to what the customers want from you itself. It allows you to find out whether or not if you have good entrepreneurial skills, right? Because you're the one who has to do it week in and week out. And if you don't have that drive to do that, not to say that the cooking industry wouldn't be good for you, but maybe the entrepreneurial side of it is not necessarily good for you. If you are stuck if you are somebody who can go with the ups and downs but still continue, like when there's a barrier that gets set in front of you, like maybe you want to open up a restaurant but nobody's going to give you $250,000 or $500,000, right? So do you just stop your dream, or do you say, no, okay, I got to start smaller, I have to start at a farmer's market, right? Those types of things. Like, where is it, you have to have all those times that there's a roadblock that comes in your space. What are you going to do to get past it?
Resilience, right?
Yeah. Well, resilience, and then also to, like, not living in the negative things that happened before, all the no's, all of those turns, because I was just talking to a person who's working on a business for many, many years now, and then he finally got approval that he's been waiting for. But all I hear is all of the things that have been so hard and so tough for him. And I'm like, well, those are done now.
Yeah.
What are you doing now?
Yeah.
Let's put that away. Like, it's done. Now you got this. What's happening? What's happening in the next 6 months? What's happening in the next year?
Yes.
But he wants somebody to do these things for him. And it's like, okay, well, you have to find that person. But until you find that person, what are you doing to make your business work? Is the thing. So I think that anybody can do business, but you got to be a little crazy.
Yes.
A little obsessed with stuff to do. So it's. I would never say don't ever do it. I think that's somebody. I love it when people tell me no, because I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'll use your no as my fuel, right? Just like, the thing of like, you're fat. I use that as my fuel. I'll use no's as like, okay, I'll just prove you wrong. That's fine. Success. And then I use that as that little bit of things. But I'm not looking to have them say, wow, congratulations, because I'm not even caring about them. I'm going to say, I'm going to do this regardless of whether or not you approve or don't approve. I don't really care. Thanks for your opinion, but I'm still going to do it anyways. So if somebody wants to do it, they're going to find a way to do it.
Yes.
And the cooking industry is hard, but I think that any industry is probably hard too. Like,
definitely.
You go on YouTube and what? You think you're just going to all of a sudden make millions?
No, you have, depending on what field you're in, you really have to have an education, and then it's a lot of determination, and then patience. Life, if anything, has taught me it's more unpredictable than it is short. But that any damn thing is going to happen. And you're going to have your moments where everything's good, but when those things come up, are you just going to, stay down to be kicked, or will you just, accept it and move on? And
learn from it too, right?
Yes, those lessons.
So you went down. Okay, so what happened? All right, what am I not going to repeat again?
Are you aware enough to be able to step back and say, this is what occurred. Did I have anything to do with it? Because a lot of times we want to say, I was the person who wasn't the part of the relationship breaking up. It wasn't me. It was never me.
Yeah.
But that's so much a part of our nature that you have to think to yourself, well, I must have something to do with it. And that's when you learn, essentially, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So I think that I have people that come in quite often, actually, who say that they want to either team up with me to put their food in my restaurant. And I'm like, well, no, because I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
You can't just bandwagon onto my thing, right?
Yeah.
But and then I have other people who they don't even know where to begin. So I just say, well, this is where I began, and I found that this was really helpful for me. And maybe a farmer's market is enough. It could have been enough for me. I was making fine. I did my farmer's market, and I was able to do 3 days a week besides the farmer's market, where I was delivering to customers and meals and stuff like that. So it could have been fine. The thing that I didn't like about it was the fact that I was the only one doing it, and I was getting burnt out from it. So I wanted to have a team of people around me to support one another, to lift each other up, to grow with one another.
Yeah.
And they make me more accountable because I have to be accountable to them. Because if it was just me, I probably would have thrown in the towel.
Yes.
I'm not interested in kind of working by myself. I want to work with good people and a good team of people. So, yeah, there's lots of questions that I would ask of that person. And a lot of times people, they think a lot, but thinking is only thinking. It's the doing part that you want to see.
Habitual deliberation is not what's going to free you from what, hinders you.
Mm-hmm.
Never does. If anyone is wondering what I mean by that, talking about it to yourself, about your problem endlessly, won't solve your problem.
No.
It certainly won't.
God, no. Just get up off your ass and do something.
Just do something. Yeah, whether it's exercising. And here's actually a perfect segue to that question. To exercising and just doing, do you have like a daily routine, Angela?
Yeah,
those are a big
funny
thing
because,
nowadays.
Yeah, so I was a real gym rat, and it's so funny because after my dad passed away, I overtrained myself to hurting myself a lot, and then I left for 2 years. Oddly enough, my brother, who's a personal trainer, the one that we have good conversations with, after my dad passed away, every time he worked out, he had severe pain, like excruciating pain every time he would work out. And it was part of his grieving process because he felt like every time he was working out, he was taking away from his time with dad. So it was that his brain telling him, this is bad, you shouldn't be doing this, which was crazy. But it took about 2 years for him, and then for me, same thing. And now I've actually taken a break from the gym because I have this inflammation marker in my blood, basically. So I have a whole bunch of inflammation and a lot of pain. So I'm on a painkiller right now, so I can actually use my hands and wrists because they were not working very well. My body's not doing great, so I have to step back. So just right now, and I have low iron, so I have like no energy. But I'm getting there. It's coming around. So I'm doing just more walking now in the mornings, and just kind of trying to keep it at that. My brain says, go, 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 because I've built that discipline of going to work out an hour, hour and a half a day, every day, like, 5-6 days a week, pushing the iron as much as I can, loving it, loving it, but then my body being broken. And it's so funny because I always found I had a weak mind, but now I feel like I have a really, really strong mind, and my body's not keeping up with it. So I have to backtrack now, give myself some rest. So I've been off the gym for 2 weeks now. I'm going to try another 2 weeks. I might even try this summer. I haven't decided yet.
Yes, yeah.
See how the walking goes. Get my iron back up again. And my daddy had passed away from blood cancer. So it was after he had passed away, I started giving blood because it was really important to me. And now I can't because of low iron. So it's more important for me to try and get my iron back up and repair my body than it is to just go in and for the physique of like working out. Because I really do enjoy lifting weights. They're just, there's nothing better than being in your own head with the music on, and a lot of times I listen to motivational speeches too, and it's all for you. It's not for anybody else. It's just for you, and it's so good. And you get such a high from something like that, and you feel strong and like you can accomplish anything itself. So now, like today, I did 2 walks, which was really great. And then hopefully this week, I'll just continue just kind of walking and being out in nature. And then I'll just start to hopefully build from there, where I'll get back into the gym maybe once a week, twice a week. I don't think I can do a 5-6 day a week again, just because of this inflammation in my body and stuff. But I got to try and meet myself where I am and look for different ways to get that feeling back. Of feeling those endorphins, of feeling like I'm accomplishing something, because I really do love to train and work out, and I'm not a runner or any of that. I did that once, you know, it's
Yeah.
woo.
Yep.
Yeah.
One time or another.
Yeah, but all in all, like, I mean, it's important to work out, but I think the thing is what is working out too, because it's different from one person to the next.
Mhm.
And as long as I'm getting out in nature and walking and having my brain kind of just go on autopilot,
Yeah.
because I think that
Yes.
it's like, you know how you have the greatest ideas in the shower?
Yeah.
It's the same way when you're walking, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
just kind of let things go, and then things pop up, and then all of a sudden this idea comes in your head, and you're like, well, what would that look like? And then next thing you know, you're doing it,
Yeah.
which is exciting and fun. So, yeah.
Well, that's the thing about just kind of like putting yourself in positions where your mind can actually unravel.
Yeah.
Right? Spending time alone or going on a nice walk or, exercising. Those things that challenge us a little bit seem to make us better. You said you exercise. Are you like a reader or
Love to read.
Love to read?
I
Yeah.
read every morning. I'm such a.
Okay.
I love my time, so I usually wake up
Yeah.
at like 5:30, 5:33 actually, and I get up, I make a cup of tea,
Oh,
and I
you're
sit down and I
really
read.
early. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's actually late. I was like a 4 a.m.er for a long, long time, so I'm sleeping in a little.
Okay.
So I get up then, I read, and then I go for a walk, and then I get ready and I go to the grocery store, and then I go to work.
Mhm.
Basically, that's my day. But usually before that, I would read for at least a half an hour,
Mhm.
and then I go and work out, and then I go to work. I always do me first.
Yes,
It's
okay.
really important to
Mhm.
have my time
Yeah.
to myself, and and it's funny because being dyslexic, I'm not great at reading, but I love reading. Like, I was
Yeah.
never good at reading, and it wasn't until probably about 2 years ago that I really started getting really into reading, and now it's like book after book after book. So
Yeah.
generally it's just regular, like, check out fiction type
Yeah.
things. But every so often I'll go and I'll get one. Like, I have a book on at the Curious Cat right now, just waiting to get that one for me, and it's about restaurant marketing. That's what it is. So I'll read that one there.
Mhm.
And I listen to podcasts and stuff like that when it pertains to leadership and restaurants and all of that stuff too. Because that's also a form of learning as well.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
You learn through those podcasts. And
Oh, so much.
isn't
Yeah.
that interesting, right? Now all this information and all this, all this data on the internet, and you can learn about just about anything nowadays.
You can, and I think that's the positive part of the internet is that
Mhm.
there are lots of things, but we have to be careful too with how much we're consuming, because sometimes if we consume, then we don't actually know how to do anything that we haven't consumed.
Mhm.
So we kind of still have to have that playtime for our brain to figure out things, to be bored.
Yes. Now, is there like a book or books that you are reading, like that anyone would know, or some because I probably have like 7 or 8 books on rotation because it's just I can't help but go back to them because they're just so infectious.
I rarely read a book again.
Really, I have
Very
to.
rarely.
I have to find certain quotes and put it in my my phone, and I have to write down words and passages. I have to like study it. I don't know why, but I've most books I'll read a few times if I bought them.
See, I admire that because the thought of writing is so hard because it's so slow compared to my brain.
I'm so bad. Yeah, I'm just like in hell because I was like you. I wasn't a good reader when I was young.
Yeah.
I needed a lot of support for that stuff. Even when I was in school, they talked about keeping me back. I think grade 8. That was mostly due to science, but I never really was good at reading. I needed so much support. But then maybe 10 years ago, I don't know what it was, I decided I wanted to learn things. And then it just became like this obsession. And now ever since, 10 years later, but up to that point, my mom read to me. She would read to me Goosebumps and the Bible and things like that. So I was never really, having to actually, pay attention and read the stories. It was always being, displayed for me. Mom was a very good storyteller. But even as I got older, I still, didn't have a great relationship with reading. But now, I don't know what it is, if it's maturity or just, inquisitiveness, wanting to know more and just being, curious. But yeah, now for the last 10 years, I've just read more than ever, and I don't know why that is, but I think it has something to do with just wanting to know things about the world, right?
Yeah, I think the older you get, the more you question everything too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when we're young, I think what happens is we're just very engulfed in who we are as a person, and we're very quick to judge and process.
Yes.
And as you get older, you realize that everything that you do has a reaction to it. So it's like you think so much more about, well, if I do this, what is this going to affect? And is that going to be good? Because it can go in this direction or that direction. When you're in your how old are you?
36.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, how old are you, Janaya? Yeah, so like when you're in your 20s, there's not a lot of fear. You just go after it, you figure it out, or you don't, and you end up on your mom's couch. Whatever it is. Right? And then as you get older, you're like, okay, if I do this, this is going to either, it's going to go this way, or it's going to go this way, or it's going to go this way. So you think about it more of what it is that you're doing, but then you also like the thing of like just learning and consuming more. You're not necessarily interested in consuming things like, I mean, you can I like fictional books because it's like a movie in slower context that you get to read and you visualize it more. I'm a very big visual learner of things. And then there's other books that I'll read that are for purely like educational purposes, but I want those because I'm learning about something in that particular thing, right? If it's, whether it's about, actually restaurants are pretty much all of it, but it's, you know, but it's also like hospitality, those types of things. But then there's leadership and stuff. I would much rather, I can retain the information better if I'm listening to it through a podcast because I can relate it easier than if I was to read it in a book. If I read it in a book, I'm highlighting it, and I might write on it, type thing. But for me to sit down and take notes is excruciating. Like my penmanship is horrible because I can't, my brain is thinking too fast for my hand to get out the thought. And then I always forget the thought, and I'm on to the sixth thought after that.
Are you at all one of those note takers in your phone?
No, I literally, I have a hard time texting people. I will usually do a voice because I have to get it out so fast, because if I don't, it's gone. It's called undiagnosed ADHD.
I mean, but you can put it in your notes and it'll be there.
It's true. I do have notes, and it's usually they're scatterbrained everywhere. I really do wish that I was a little bit more organized with that. Like, I'm organized with so many things, but I have like 4 or 5 different journals that are started. I love starting a new journal. They're the best. But can I finish the damn journal? No, I cannot.
Well, I mean, you've finished your thoughts up until that point, and then you start a new one. So, I mean, it's essentially finished that period of time.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't do much journaling, but I, of course, do my meditation, and I, of course, love to read, and I have my exercise routine, and a lot of that is just, like, coping mechanisms, I've found, like, to be honest. When my mom and sister died in a car accident, a lot of stuff became, what is the best thing to do right now, one after the other. And a lot of my life has become kind of that. It's very intentional, kind of what I put in my body, the people I hang out with, the things that I do, but it's always been about what can I decide comes next, right? And so I try to actually do what you're kind of doing and take a step back, because you don't want to overtrain, whether it's exercising, and become injured. So now kind of my thing is I lift like probably heavier than like the average woman would, like a 50-pound kettlebell, 35-pound weights and things like that. But I only do it for 30 minutes. And I only do it 5 days a week. But then I do 3 weeks on and then 2 weeks off. Of course, that's just 5 weeks. But that's just always my habit now. I don't really ever lift to, I do things consistently, and it's always been more for about how I felt about myself. And then, if you get stronger, like, that's great. But it's more about, like, having a tool as to, like, cleanse my energy, put me back in a better state of mind, whether it's, like, cold showers or...
Done those. They were good.
Right?
Yeah.
Exceptional, right? You can... And, of course, it's got a lot to do with that inflammation in the body. But once you hop in that cold shower, that's just one of those things that you feel, of course, a huge difference. But you've noticed that as well, Angela, taking cold shower. Not easy.
No, I built up to it.
Yes, and that's also part of it, too, where you're just like, I could, do anything, walk into a burning building before I take a few steps towards the cold water.
Yeah.
It's something about the damn cold water, and you're just facing it, and you realize, like, okay, like, I've got to do this. And it's actually, like, quite daunting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I did it, so, like, I did it over, I think it was, like, a 4-week period is what it was. So I would do the sauna first.
Yep.
For like 10 minutes, and then I would go into the shower and I put it just to cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for like a whole week.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next week I did it like half to cold,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the way to cold.
Yeah.
And then once I got all the way to cold, then I increased the amount of time associated around it.
Yes,
So it
yeah.
was like you broke it down into smaller, more manageable chunks so that it wasn't as terrible. And it was your brain. It was totally
Yes,
your brain
totally,
that was
totally.
saying, "Oh God, this is going to be uncomfortable. I don't want to do this." Ah.
Isn't that like a
Yeah.
great lesson for life, though, in
Yeah.
general, right? We misread sometimes the situation, and we just add to it. It's a lot of us just saying, like, this is terrible, this is terrible. Once you get in, the first 5 seconds go by, you're like a
You're
pig,
fine,
you're like
you're
a pig
down.
in shit.
Yeah.
You're quite happy about it, as my mom would say. But that's so true, and I think that that's really one of the rewarding things about doing things that you don't want to do.
Yeah, I think that most times we don't want to do it, and our brains are super interesting because you can create the exact same effect in your brain as you do to reality.
That's why
It doesn't
dreams
know the
are-
difference,
yeah.
right? Like it can be that vivid.
Mhm.
They actually did testing on people. It was for working out, and it was muscle memory, right?
Mhm.
So if you think while you're doing a bicep curl, and you're doing that bicep curl, and you're focusing in on your bicep itself, when you do that, your brain registers at 25% more approximately, that you get 25% more effort out of that. So they did a study where it was that they had people not work out, but they took those 30 minutes and went through every exercise in their brain as if they were working out. And at the end of the 6-week period, the people who didn't do any working out still, I think they saw like an 11% increase in their muscle like in the metrics of an improvement, even though they didn't
Interesting.
work out.
The placebo effect.
Yes. So our brain is incredibly,
Suggestion,
Yeah.
or what you believe.
yeah.
That's just
It doesn't know the
That's
difference.
just it. That's
Yeah.
like having a dream. What the body reacts the same way as if you're conscious. Isn't that interesting? That once you decide, everything can change.
Everything can change.
Whatever you're deciding.
Yeah.
Whatever you're deciding.
Do you do like a lot of daydreaming? Like when you think about like who the person you are now and who it is that you're striving to become, right? Do you go through like I do a lot of I call it daydreaming, where it's like I visualize what that looks like. What is it that I do on a daily basis?
Yeah.
What does that person
100%.
Yeah.
That's
and
why I'm so hard on myself, or why at least at some part of the day I need to make sure I'm doing some part of my routine, because I feel like when I'm not, I'm paying the gods that are taken away from my dreams, some currency. But
Mhm.
when I'm doing, the said thing that I feel like in my best interest in the person who I want to become, because I have an idea of the things I do tomorrow will help me become that person, rather than not doing the things today and becoming that person. I just don't see the correlation. So every day I do that small thing that I've, decided that I think will make me the best version of myself. I try to do that, and it is about that dreaming, because this might not seem like much, but I dreamt, that I'd be here. And this dream happened a long time ago, but it was, maybe I was involved in Joe Rogan, listening to him, and maybe I, had been through that, had just died a few years earlier, was living with friends, just kind of, not sure where to turn next. I thought I wanted to be a personal trainer during that time, so what did I do? I bought the personal training book, or I got it from a friend, he lent it to me, and I went through it. I never ended up becoming a personal trainer, but I could see that certain things were going to come to fruition. I thought I'd be a personal trainer and be a fighter and do my podcast and, talk about meditation or something. Something was going to happen that way, but I could see this place. And long behold, this ended up being the place that I had in my mind. And not a lot of people are going to believe this, but it's true. I dreamt all of this stuff to happen, sometimes we're just like an antenna. And I think sometimes if you're in the right position, you're like a radio signal. It'll hit you, and you can get in tune to something. And I don't know why that happened or why I'm here now. But like, keep in mind, I saw those things, but I couldn't account for all the things that were going to happen as I got there.
No, but you created it too. Your brain, when you have that time for your brain to play and think of all of that stuff, it actually, in the background, it starts to go to work on those things.
Yes.
It gives you it, and it's up to you whether or not you see those opportunities to turn left or right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you
Absolutely.
have decisions every single time, every single day you have decisions to make.
Yes.
And by you following the things that you put in place to get you to closer to who you want to be, that's making you closer to that person itself. But if you decide, oh, I'm not getting out of bed today, and oh, I'm not training anymore, and oh,
Yeah.
it's been 2 weeks, I'm going to extend it out another week or another
Yes.
week with it,
Yes.
you're getting further and further away from the person that you want to be.
Yes.
So that's the free will part of it, right?
And that's the agitation that I would feel. So I just can't let myself not do the right things for too long, because it's just my moral compass or whatever it might be. But I start to feel that, and I realize, like, I'm not, living out my true self, not doing the things I need to do for myself. Angela, a few more questions before we go.
Sure.
I'm just curious. How do I put this? Was there a time when you thought that maybe the food business wasn't for you? Was there ever like a really tough moment where you're like,
Yeah, I quit several times, actually.
okay, yeah.
So on the personal trainer note,
Oh shit. Okay.
I was a
yeah,
personal trainer for
yeah.
like 5 minutes.
Yep. Yep. Good
So
for you.
I was the managing at the PRISY Pig,
Yeah.
and then I felt like I wanted to do more.
Yes.
So I decided that I was going to leave my management position to become a personal trainer at Good Life.
Okay.
And
okay.
it was the most stressful 2 weeks of my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you didn't get paid anything, literally.
Right.
Like, it was wow. There was not a lot of training that was to be done, and I was expected to train people like a gentleman who had broke his back.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable with doing this, even though I took the Good Life training program and all of those types of things. So it was very quickly had that I was ready to throw away the career of cooking because I was tired. I was feeling burnt out. I didn't want to do it. And then I came crawling back and said, would you please hire me again? I'll do
Yeah.
whatever you want me to do.
Yeah.
And so that happened. And then afterwards, again, too, after the PRISY Pig had closed down and I was doing the farmer's market and I was by myself, I was getting really burnt out. My mom was helping me and I was really tired and exhausted. My hands were getting really sore to the point where some days I couldn't even hold a knife. And that's happens a lot now. So that's why I don't do that anymore. And then I left and became a licensed insurance agent because I was like, well, what else can I do? And, oh, I'm really good at budgeting. Let's do that instead.
Going
So,
through talents,
yeah, there's been a many's of times. If I'm truthful, this is the longest job I've ever had in my entire life.
Which is good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually I quit everything about 2 years in, 2 to 3 years, and then I need a big, drastic
You need a big
change.
Yep.
Yeah, so now I have no choice. I'm committed to the next 5 years,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
what I want.
Yes.
But I already know what my plan is in
Yeah,
5 years.
yeah. In
I know that everything that I'm doing now is preparing me to become the next version of myself in 5 years. I'm going to be a business consultant. I am going to be the person that will help other people open up their own food business. This is what I know I'm training to do right now. That is my goal and my intention in 5 years, is to have Fresh Food Matters, whatever happens with it, that this is the next part of my life that's going to happen. So I already know that.
And that's just about having a vision and then being like, oh, I'm just going to do that one little thing that gets me in that direction. That's literally, if anybody's speaking or listening, excuse me, when it comes to following some kind of dream or any kind of objective or anything you want to do, if you want to get in shape, you don't wait until you're in shape to get in shape.
No.
It's like waiting for the ocean to calm so you can take a bath or whatever. There's no time for that ever to happen. You just kind of say, I'm going to go, purchase some shorts. It's like, well, what are you going to do with those shorts? Maybe you're going to, you might use those when you're running or when you're going to, be outside, or when you're going to go to the gym. It's just like you go buy that Good Life t-shirt or you go and inquire and you just find out and one thing leads to the next. Maybe you didn't think you wanted to be a personal trainer. but your whole life changes as you get out there and do those things. You know, as Marcus Aurelius would quote again, you know, lives are meant to be led at court, and like any life you can lead, he's like, it can be a good one. You know, color your mind with thoughts like that. Any life I can lead, it can be a good one. And
Yes, and that's in business or not in business. That could
Yes.
be working for a really great company too, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not to say that you have to start your own business. You might be completely happy in the business that you're in. Maybe you, and then afterwards you have like lots of really great hobbies that completely satisfy you too, that you're happy with. So, life is what you want it to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's taking the reins back, right? That's so important. Angela, another question before we get too far down that road. Is there, how do I put it? Is there anything I missed that you'd like people to know about yourself or about your business?
That you've missed.
Yeah, is there anything? Because
God.
usually I want to make sure that there, you know, sometimes people feel like there's something really integral that, you know, I may have overlooked because we talk for a few hours. But
Yeah.
of course, we'll do this again, and maybe in 5 years I can put you to the test about,
Absolutely.
about all your goals and stuff, and say, see, Angela,
You said this.
Yes.
I
so
have it
that-
on recording.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say probably just there's nobody that's going to do it for you. And you have to motivate yourself. And if you're not happy, there's nobody who is going to make you happy but yourself. And life is hard and tough, but if you keep on telling yourself that life is hard and tough, it's going to be a lot harder and a lot tougher. So if you have it that, you know what, life can be really shitty sometimes, but I still have to put my big girl pants on and get out there and do the things that I want to do. Like, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how many opportunities that are put in front of you. You have to make the choice to do it. And to do it for yourself, because nobody else is going. It's not to say that nobody won't help you with it, but it's to say that, like, you have to do it. You have to actually stop talking, like shut your mouth, and go out and actually put the effort into doing it. Whether that's talking to somebody about getting a table at the farmer's market.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
guess what? I can't do it for the next 6 weeks. Okay, so you don't leave it to 6 weeks before you get the table. You say, what can I do between now and then? Maybe I need to practice my recipes. Maybe I need to develop my menu. Maybe I have to start a Facebook page. You have to do things that are in between before you get to the thing that you want. You have to put all of those steps in there. And talk to people and be social and find connections with people too, right? It just, I don't know, you have to do it for you and not for anybody else. Sometimes it can be for somebody else at the beginning, but if it's for somebody else and then you feel like you're losing yourself in it, then it's probably not, like, you know, you have to pivot and do it for yourself. I had a lady who I do catering for her quite a bit. The other day, and she's absolutely gorgeous, a stunning woman, right? Couple of years older than me. And the other day she came in to pick up the catering, and as she bent down to pick up the bags, I was helping her. She said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." She said, "Did you ever regret going out on your own?" And as soon as she said it, she gave me the biggest goosebumps. And I said, "Absolutely not." And I said, "Are you thinking about it?" She goes, "I'm not sure." And I said, "Well, Shannon," I said, "do you give yourself 110% of this job?" She said, "Yes." I said, "So what makes you think that you wouldn't give 110% to yourself?"
That is actually very profound because, yes, most people would give themselves totally and completely to an occupation, to a boss. But if you had to get up at 7 a.m. to work all day for yourself, chances are we wouldn't feel comfortable saying, yeah, I can do that.
Because if you believe in yourself, that means that you're self-absorbed and that you're selfish, and that's so not true. I am a selfish person. If I am not a selfish person, then I will not be my best for my team.
Yes.
So I'm okay with that, and that you cannot like me for that. That's okay.
Yeah, you stop making excuses about who you are and what you're doing for other people's benefit. It just doesn't matter. Once you get to that spot and that place, it's a little bit scary as well as it's exciting. More exciting than scary because you're finally just leaving behind the pieces of you that had really no value and are not really useful anymore. As you progress, as you need to take on more responsibility, as you create a family, as you become a person who's, someone that people look up to in the community.
That's right.
And Angela, where can we find you now? I know that you're moving to the mall, but where can people find you right now? Where's Fresh Food Matters?
Right now, we're located at 125 Main Street, Antigonish. You'll probably drive past us. We're just set back just a little bit. You can probably smell us before you see us. In a good way.
Yep.
In a very good way. And you might hear us before you see us too. But yeah, we're located at 125 Main Street in Antigonish, and soon we will be located at 133 Church Street, Unit 133.
In June, right?
In June,
June
yeah.
4th, right?
June 4th is the goal of it, so we will see.
Unreal, Angela. I'm greatly effusive that you came here today.
Thank
and
you.
Gratitude is on another level. This was a wonderful conversation. I'm greatly happy that you came here and talked to everyone about your life a little bit and your business and everything in between. And we will see you again some other time. I'm sure down the road, hopefully before 5 years. And,
Yes, you'll have to come in and I'll have to make you coffee, which I don't know how to do.
Absolutely. And yeah, and again, I'm trying to create these networks, and it's actually been quite wonderful to get to know you better. I think I had a little bit of an idea how down to earth you were by going into the shop, but it only reconfirmed that tenfold that you're just a great person, very
Thank
personable. You made it easy for me to feel comfortable, which is just the best. And I thank you so much, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Janai. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Heck yeah.
It is. It's good conversations to have.
It is. So, Angela, is there anyone that you would like to shout out, or are you saying that I should shout them out?
Yeah, it's somebody that I work with quite a few catering events, and you may or may not know them. It is Jennifer and Scott out at Firelock.
Oh, is that the, give me a second, that's like the spa, and...
I would loosely call it a spa. It's more...
They have like a sauna out there?
There's a sauna, there's a dome. So I took my team out there for a team building day, which was so funny because my team's like, she's going to make us fucking walk and hike. We're not gonna go.
Throw axes and...
So we did. We did axes, we did pizza, but we also did this one where it was like a team building.
Right.
So it was like 3 or 4 hours where we sat. Jennifer was the facilitator of it. And we talked about where we were, where we are now, and where we want to be. So there was a lot of input from everybody, and it was a real safe space, and we had an absolute blast. So I do a lot of events out there when it comes to catering, but the amount of different businesses that are going out there to do some really amazing things out in Lock Harbor. It's an amazing space just to be out there and hang out. But Jen and Scott are doing some, they did a life school in Halifax itself, and they are now here in Antigonish. So I think that you would have, they're really good people, and it's just exciting what they're putting out there just outside of town for so many people to take advantage of and to do and to network and classes and so many different things.
Yeah, everyone needs to understand that Antigonish is just simply behind the clouds. We're the sun shining, but we're just behind the clouds. There's so much to see here if you look. And it just depends where you look, but the amount of businesses and the amount of great people that are in this, small town, in this province, where, so many great ideas are coming up and so many opportunities. And yeah, I'd actually love to meet those folks because I've been looking into a lot of the stuff that they're doing down there.
Yeah.
And it does take one by one, but that actually would be awesome, and maybe we could, you could be my olive branch, perhaps, to them.
I've already talked to them about it.
Oh,
well,
then...
we'd love to meet Janaya.
There you go. So I must be doing something right. I must be doing something right. So thank you so much, Angela. Truly grateful for you to come, and we'll definitely have you back again.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Have a great day, everyone. Great night, great evening. Take care. See y'all soon.